My name is Georginacyr, and I'm just going to show you how to, or rather how I ferment salsa. And so I do a lot of, well, first of all, I'm a certified herbalist and natural health consultant, amongst other various modalities and therapies. But what I really love to do is work with food. And so I make healthy 15-minute meals. Have been doing that for quite a few years now. And I have a lot of videos on YouTube as well as Facebook Live. And it's been a lot of fun just sharing healthy recipes. Most of my meals are 15-minute fast healthy meals. Yeah, I'm not a professional cook or anything. I just have been asked a lot to share how I do things and make a really quick, super fast, healthy meal. And so anyway, with this fermented salsa, this is going to be fermented, so it will have all of the probiotic qualities of, like, you've probably heard of raw sauerkraut, and all of the benefits for the raw sauerkraut. And you know, it has so much to do with your immune system, your gut biome, your beneficial intestinal bacteria has so much to do with your whole immune system. There's a lot of research on it assisting with brain function. There's been tons of research lately on mood issues with, you know, it feeds the gut, which feeds the brain. And so they've done a lot of research on Alzheimer's, depression, and even autism, and the relationship of how that intestinal bacteria helps to balance, you know, the function of the brain, which is really super crazy awesome that that it's so true that our you know, our beneficial bacteria is really more important than we know, right? Than most people know. So a lot of people are familiar with probiotics, which is, you know, a lot of people that have been on antibiotics. Your antibiotic is an antibiotic, right? So it's going to kill off the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. So if you've ever been on antibiotics, you definitely, usually nowadays, you've been told to replace that bacteria that was killed off by the antibiotics, to replace that with a probiotic. And normally they will send you to the health food store for probiotic capsules, which is fine too. It's, you know, sometimes you really need that kind of concentrated probiotic. As you can see, I'm not a professional cook. I just do things how I do them, and often it's just easier than getting the proper utensils. So yeah, if you've ever seen my Facebook Live, it's pretty funny. Anyways, one of the things that I do to make my 15-minute healthy meals 15 minutes super fast is when you come back from the grocery store, you should always, always, always wash your vegetables before you put them in the fridge. Because, you know, some people will say, oh, well, that takes away the nutrition and blah, blah, blah. But what I have found is that if you don't wash your vegetables before you put them in the fridge, and you've worked all day, you know, many times you'll open up the fridge and you'll think, oh my gosh, I don't have time to wash the broccoli or the cauliflower or the lettuce or the whatever. And rather than, you know, being tired at the end of the day and dragging all that stuff out and washing it, what you need, and then putting it back, it's much easier to have everything pre-washed and I have my bags open at the top, and you just take your knife into the fridge, hack off a hunk of cauliflower or broccoli or whatever it is that you need, or a couple carrots, tomatoes, whatever, and then you're more apt to eat healthy. Whereas if you open up the fridge and nothing's been washed, and you're tired at the end of the day, quite often you'll just close the fridge and eat something super quick and maybe not as healthy. So I find we use our vegetables faster when they're washed and ready to go, ready to eat. So everything's been pre-washed, of course, and so I'm going to ferment these. So I have tomatoes and peppers. I did not in this, I do have a few other videos of regular salsa, which I love also. But I did not happen to have any green peppers. So this is going to be a pretty red salsa. And that's okay. You know, we have to make do with what we have. And so the beauty of well, any salsa really, homemade, fresh, is that you can add to it later. So when I do get to the store, I'll add some cilantro and maybe chop up finely green pepper to add those flavors and colors. So yeah, for whatever reason, I really needed some more fermented salsa, and so it's okay if you only have red vegetables. Okay, so also you'll notice that I have not taken the ribs or the seeds out of the peppers. And I know some people will say, you know, what about the lectins? And yes, if you are having a problem with lectins, you may want to work with that. You know, there's also lectins in the tomato peels and seeds and stuff like that. But in my experience, if you have a problem with lectins, then you have a problem with digestion, and then you really need your probiotic fermented foods to help to heal and repair the intestinal inflammation that is, you know, that is that sensitive to lectins. So yeah, so it's really about diet and, you know, working with lectin and intestinal sensitivity, and it may take some time to heal, you know, and it may just be something that you have to watch and work with forever, but definitely in my experience, it can be vastly improved. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to chop up some of the onion too. I'm cutting this a little, not too fine, but I am going to use a hand processor. I really, you know, I prefer to use the hand one. I don't know, it just seems less aggressive than an electric food processor. So I like to do that, and I find it makes a better consistency for me. I just like that I can control the consistency, because I've found, you know, no matter what setting I use on the food processor, it seems to turn it too mushy for me. So yeah, so we have onion. I'm not going to add, well, I might add a little bit more onion. You know, I'm an intuitive cook, and so so it's like a little of this and a little of that. It's not generally, you won't find a lot of exact measurements on my recipes. I have about 150 recipes on YouTube, and so feel free to check those out. I have a ton of pictures, many or some with recipes on my Instagram as well. And so it's just inspirational, right? If the food looks beautiful and colorful and it's healthy for you, then it's an inspiration for people to think that it's easy to eat healthy. You know, it's not really that hard, and it surprises me how many people just don't think that they can understand how to eat healthy. Like I don't, it's pretty easy. And you know what? One of the things I say on my Facebook Live all the time is that if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. You can always turn it into soup, which is usually the case, right? If it doesn't turn out, you can usually use it in soup. There's not too many things when it comes to food, and especially fresh food, that you can't put into soup. Okay, so we have these together here. What we're going to do is put them in the little handheld processor here, and I'll probably do half and half because this looks like a little too much. So I'm just going to put I'm adding ginger, fresh ginger. I'll add about half the onion and about half of each of these. Of course, your hand's going to be freshly washed. Freshly washed hands are always good. I am going to add some cayenne pepper because I want it spicy, obviously. But because I don't have any other green peppers, so I am going to do that. And oh, and the other thing is honey, so I am going to add that. If you know, I often will use maple syrup as well. So either or, whatever kind of sweetener that you want. I find that, the honey is just adds such a beautiful mild flavor. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it all together first, and then we're going to blend it into the salt to help it to ferment. And actually I will add just a little bit of salt now. So typically when you're fermenting, the typical rule of thumb, and everybody has their own rules and their own thumbs, so it can vary. But typically what I find is that people will say 1 tablespoon of salt to 1 quart of liquid. And this is a Himalayan pink salt. I would not use an iodized salt for fermenting. You can use a Celtic sea salt or any other natural salt. Okay, so this is just about that much, and that feels to me like maybe 1/3 of a quart, so I'm going to use 1/3 of a tablespoon. And we'll set that aside right now and put this in here, on here, and give that a spin. And of course, you know, the finer you cut it, the easier this is going to be. I always like to have the arm exercise. As you can see, I don't make enough salsa on a regular basis to keep my arms that toned. So I definitely need to do this more often. Okay, so it's still pretty chunky. I'm going to give it another couple spins. A little more muscle. Elbow grease, that's the word I'm looking for. A little more elbow grease there. Alrighty. Oh yeah, it's getting nice warm in here now. Okay, so there's that. I am going to, I'm going to move my horseradish, and I'm going to, I dropped a carrot in there. I was making a carrot recipe before this. Oh, okay. When I do my Facebook Live, quite often people will come on. Anyways, okay, so it says my battery is low, so I'm just going to rush along here. We're going to dump that in. And hope my battery doesn't kick me off. Okay, so we're going to put the rest of this in. Quickly give it another spin. So basically, what we're going to do is add the salt to this. Another, so that we have, I'm going to say, I don't want it too salty. The salt, you need the salt to preserve it and to stop it from molding. But at the same time, if you put too much salt, then it starts to inhibit the bacterial growth. And this is the whole reason for fermenting, is for the bacterial growth, right? So get some muscle in here again. Oh, and I forgot to add the honey. I'm going to get this going a little bit first. And I forgot to add the salt. The low battery is throwing me off my game, but you know what? Life happens, and that's just how it is. Okay, so another 1/3 of the salt. And I think I put quite a bit of honey in last time, but you know, the honey is a very, very mild taste. It's not super sweet. This is a natural sourced honey from locally here. Respectful beekeepers, friends of mine. Gotta love it when everything flies off the table when I really start using the muscle. Okay, so this is good. For our purposes of not losing the battery, this is good. Okay, we're going to put this in here, and you always want to keep your ferment in something glass, and especially if you're working with salt and tomatoes, you want that metal out of there right away. You don't want to be leaving metal in with tomatoes and salt especially. So I'm just going to show you this. And so basically what we're doing, putting this in a jar, and rather than putting it in the fridge, we're leaving it on the counter for 3 days, loosely covered in a jar with either a clean cloth or cheesecloth or you could use a coffee filter or paper towel, put an elastic around over the top so it's covered and it can breathe. So the cloth is so it can breathe and release those gases, the lactic acid, and to keep the bugs and dust and that kind of thing out. So you're gonna leave it on the counter for 3 days. Watch it every day, look at it, open it up, see. Make sure everything's under the liquid, because anything outside the liquid can start to mold. So you wanna make sure all those bits are in there. So keep checking it, pushing it down under the liquid. And after you see the bubbles starting to come up and, you know, ferment a bit, usually I find, it depends how warm it is really, but anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Usually by the 6th day, it's just like, it's just perfect. That's when you want to put it in the fridge, and then you can keep it there. That stops the fermentation process or slows it down. But the flavors just pop. It's just like the most amazing salsa ever. And you're getting all your probiotics, your beneficial bacteria. And yeah, so I encourage you to go ahead and make this. And yeah, hopefully you have some green things to put in it, like a green pepper or whatever. Anyways, that's a fermented salsa, and look for me on my Facebook Live or my YouTube or my Instagram. It's georginacyr, Georginacyr. Okay, thanks for hanging out, and happy and healthy cooking. Okay.